actually proud.
Right, okay, so this first question, as I've said, for me, the important thing is that you're looking at... Let's go full screen. Oh, where's my controls? Is that you're looking at the key words.
Considering what I got last time.
So the first question, yeah, they give us a bit of data, that's nice, but this is the thing you should be picking out. It says explain. If you just state something, that can't possibly be an explain. So what you need to do is you need to say why MOP is those numbers. So loads of you went and put 77. Some people didn't put commas. You've got to separate things. Alright? Don't just write a load of numbers next. So if you wrote this, 7779, what is it? This is a combination to some safe or something, or your PIN number. Put commas in between numbers when you're doing a list, just like you do. Okay? Right, so that will get you part of it, but it said explain. And so you need to say something like each character is allocated its own code, which is used to identify it. That's all you needed to say. You just explain what a character is. There's a million ways of writing these things. I'm just off the top of my head what I'm writing. So each character is allocated a value which identifies it uniquely. That's it. Does everybody think they could have put that extra bit in and got another mark? That's what you could probably double your score. All those people that are in like the 30s, 40s, you could have probably doubled your score on this test by just doing the follow through. Yeah, that's all you need to do. You just got to get practice at it now. We've got another year or so. Right, okay, so moving on. So that was like a start me question. Right, and then this, definitions. You have got to nail down definitions. Okay, so what is a character set? It is the set of characters that a computer can represent. That is it. Character sets are different for different computer systems. So that's all it is. The set of characters, and characters is a funny word to explain, so that's like symbols, digits. So I always like give them a little bit of explanations. Alphabetic characters. That a computer system can represent. That's all it is, whatever that computer system is. Right, the next question. I gave quite a few people benefit of the doubt, because the question says, let me just read part of the question. It says, identify the maximum number of different characters that ASCII can represent. If I don't read the rest of the question, the answer is 128. Okay, because ASCII is a 7-bit code. But the question specifically says, and the exam would have changed this, that ASCII is an 8 bits. It says 8 bits. So this is our standard. How many things can you represent with so many bits? So I'm going to write down 8 column headings. 16, 32, 64. That's 8 column headings. If I go one more, I get my answer. So 2, 5, 6. That's my answer. That's how I do it. So if they'd have said a character set uses 5 bits, I'd go 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, and I go, haha, 32. Next one along. That's all you got to do. No maths. They're always going to be answers that are divisible by 2. As a double check. Someone put 257, which was a bit of a shame because obviously they were pretty close. They realised there was a +1, but they +1 to the answer. Right, okay, the next one. Bit of a mad question, really. Right. A text file uses the ASCII character set, the one that uses 8 bits. So that's a byte. Remember, 8 bits is a byte. It's got 2,000 characters. Calculate an estimate. Now, whenever we're estimating, or wherever we're doing kilobytes and megabytes, use 1,000. Don't use 1,024. Use 1,000 because you can easily estimate then. Right, so for this one, we've got 2,000 characters, so that's 2,000. And if we want it in, and we've got what, 8 bits each? So that gives us 16,000 bits. But we want it in kilobytes. So if we say, right, well, yeah, divide by 8 to turn it into bytes. So that gives us 2,000, so where we started. So that's 2,000 bytes. In kilobytes, well, that's 2, isn't it? 2 is the answer. 2 kilobytes. So I didn't really need to mess about with the bits. If I'd have just realised that 8 bits was a byte, I could have gone straight to 2,000 divided by 1,000. So to get to kilobytes, we just divide by 1,000. It's important that you remember that. But yes, stick 2,000s. Multiply by 1,000, divide by 1,000. Right, one other character set. The only other one we've talked about is Unicode, which a few of you did get. Okay, so that's good. JavaScript isn't a character set, that's a language. Some people put ASCII. He said other. Other. That's the key word, other. It was already talking about ASCII. And then it said here, write the 8-bit binary number for ASCII J in the box. Now, we have to go up to the top where it said the number was 74. So they're saying, can you convert denary to binary? So some of you did this, but then didn't go any further. But at least you did some working. So I just put your column ends on, however you want to work that out. So it was, I've forgotten the number now, 73 was it? 74. Right, so 74, not going to have one of those. Going to get one of those, that leaves me 10. So no 32s, no 16s, but I can have an 8. That leaves me 2. So it was that. Whatever method you use it. No calculators, remember? Okay, moving on. Then it says ASCII character K. The key word here is hexadecimal. Right, they expect you to know the alphabet. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K is the next one. So K is 75. Write it, if you're going to do hexadecimal, the easiest way, write it down in binary. So this is only one more than the other one we had. So it would have been 01, 00, then we had an 8, a 2 and a 1. So that's equivalent to 75. Right, remember, hexadecimal, you just take groups of 4 bits. So you take that group and you say, what is that number? So I just put my little column ends on. And I say, that is 8 plus 2 is 10. That's 11. I take this group and I do the same thing. I just go 1, 2, 4, 8. And I go, oh, well, that's 4. But that's not hexadecimal. So we have to say, right, okay. And a few people did put number lines on. So A is 10. B is 11. Don't need to go any further. So in hex, this is 4.
I did 4A.
But you did, yeah. 4B. But you got a mark for working. So, right, always do that number line. You've only got to start at 10. 10 is A. And just work your way down to what you need. But if you've done the work first, you know where you can stop once you get to B. You've just got to get happy doing those. They're gift questions, the binary ones.
Wait a second, you up? You up?
I'll give you a copy of this and the video and everything anyway, Aaron, so don't worry too much. Right, okay, moving on. This is where we started hemorrhaging marks now. Right, keyword. Describe. Describe. Right, bitmap images. We use numbers to represent colours. I'm not going to write a full answer. I'm just going to put the things you should have talked about. Numbers to represent colours stored in binary. No, I haven't finished. So each pixel is assigned a colour number. Okay, we store the width and height so we know how many pixels to draw along and down. So it was only 3 marks, so there's loads more things you can say than 3 marks worth. Store the width and height, and we have a colour palette. A colour palette identifies the colour for each colour number. And that's really all there is to it. So I've made like 4 or 5 points there. But maximum it crops at 3. Okay, so it's about getting your info down. Okay, with like concise but clear. Right, the next question. Explain why computers represent data in binary form. Some people like sort of went round the answer and said some things but didn't really do it. Right, so computers use switches called transistors. These can be on or off. So that's 1 mark, and then you're tying it to the reason. So that's stating what they use, and the reason we use binary is because we can represent noughts and ones. And that's it. That's why we use binary. So they can be used for memory, for instructions. Everything is written in binary in the computer. So everything can be represented using transistors. But again, it's a, can I easily and quickly do that in the tests, under test conditions?
So, how much do you think you'd get if you'd done this test? 100?
Nah, probably not. I'd have made a mistake or something.
So, what does that say? Transistors?
Yeah.
What did you get in computer science, sir, for your GCSEs?
Oh, I didn't do O levels of GCSEs when I was at school.
What did you do?
At O level, I did maths, physics, chemistry, geography, art. What else did I do? Must have done another subject. Biology. Hated that. I couldn't spell anything.
When did you get into computer science?
A level. When I got banned from doing art.
Why?
So I can't paint. I can't paint. So I said to the head,
You was good,
yeah,
so you could draw, but you just got...
I can do any other medium. I could not paint, and it was 70% coursework was paint. I was really bad at paint.
Painting is just awkward though, isn't it?
I never really gave it a proper chance. That was the problem. It's a skill, isn't it? Yeah. We never had paint at home. That was the problem. So I never really practiced. Easy to practice pencil and stuff like that. Even modelling, you could use mud in the backyard. Right. Okay, gents, ladies. Right, then we get on to a couple of... You probably, when you was doing these questions, you were thinking these are a bit repetitive, and they're sort of... The reasons we do compression are the same reasons no matter what the type of data we're compressing. Okay? Right, so you've got to read the question here because the context is here. And again, the key word is describe. Loads of people identified the correct things, but didn't go on to get the second mark each time. Right. So it says image is compressed using lossy. So we know that's a throwaway one. Really good compression. Before it's uploaded to a web server. Image will be used on the website. Right, fair enough. One advantage, one disadvantage. So, smaller file. That's so you can say that, but you've then got to say quicker to upload. And the opposite of that, when someone's viewing the website, it's quicker to download by a browser. So this is all to do with smaller file. And then the other benefit of that is that you're taking up less server space. Less space used on server. But you can't get 2 marks for saying one of those things. You've got to say the compression makes the file smaller. This is the benefit. So always start, when you're answering these questions, always start with the consequence. What's the effect of doing this thing? What's the benefit then of that thing? So the smaller file is what you get from the compression. Those 3 are benefits. Right, disadvantages. Quality. Okay. Did anyone, I can't remember whether anyone put any other disadvantages. But quality, depending on compression, on how aggressive you compressed it. If you were going for mega high compression, the quality would be pretty poor. Okay, but if you get it in like a mid-level, it probably would not be recognisable on a website. It would when you downloaded it. So it may be blurry. I think a few people said it might be blurry, but you got to explain why. And it's to do with the level of compression. So you might get blurry or blocky. Yeah. Have they?
Yeah. It blocks it a long time. It's because of thingy. It's alright for here, but you just use it for any other.
I know. It's good for setting questions for yourself. But hey.
I'll be honest, sir. If there was reception in the English block, that would be doing all of my tests.
That's why they blocked it.
No, even on my phone.
Right. Okay. Is everyone happy with that? It's what's the outcome of the thing? What's the consequence? Right. For metadata, we're talking about images. So when you're answering questions like this, it says use an example. So a few people did say it is extra data to describe what we're storing. Extra data. A few people were saying for websites. No. Yeah, websites use metadata, but that's not what we're talking about. That's just another example.
What tells you like where the picture was taken and all of that?
That is an example. So I'm sticking to the context. So extra data about the image. So things like resolution. I'm sticking to image stuff. Resolution, color palette, number of colors. Number of colours. You could have location taken if it was with a camera phone. It had GPS. Location, date and time. Date and time's are solid that you could do for any type of file. Author. When you do Word documents and Google Docs, you get like author information. It'll log who made the document originally, etc.
We only need to put one of these.
It only needed one, using an example. So whenever you're asked for an example, so it was a describe, they were the 2 keywords. Example and describe. Okay, moving on. This was part of a bigger question, this one, that asked you to like do some colour palette things. Right, image resolution. Most people got this, and I was quite happy with that. You did remember what that meant. Remember, that is the number of pixels in an image.
I said how clear it is.
Yeah, it's too vague. And really, because it's an image and it's a square image, or rectangular image, we talk about the width and height in pixels. Or you could have, like Kate did, which was superb. He said it was to do with pixels per inch, which is the original definition of resolution. No, that was good. Or pixels per inch. That's how we tend to do it.
Can I have this up?
Huh? Yeah. Some people were said about the number of bits used. That's to do with colour depth, remember? Yes, Tobias.
Oh wait, so you cannot say the detail on the whole.
Too vague. You could if you then said such as the width and height. If you'd have said that, you'd have had it. Yeah, because you were like, yeah, it needs to do with detail, but what do you mean by that? Okay. So you were on the right lines, you're just not specific enough, that's all. Right, okay, then we go to audio. There is some quite interesting answers on this. Some people were saying, yeah, use an analog to digital converter. Yes, you do. But what does it do? The analog to digital. It's not a bit of magic. What does it do? So remember we sample at regular intervals. What do we sample? That's the key bit. You've got to say more than the sound or the wave or whatever. It's the amplitude of the waveform that makes up the sound. That's all we do when we sound sample. Yes, you do use analog to digital converters. There isn't much more you can say. That is sampling. Right, there were some really good answers to this, but loads of people only got 2 marks because they didn't do the explain for both of these. So there was 8 marks up for grabs here, and people threw half of them away. Right, explain is our key word. Right, so if we increase the sample rate, we will increase the file size. But we have to explain why. Because we're taking more samples. So we're increasing the amount of data we're recording. So we increase the amount of samples per second.
Would I put that under the one I said the size, the file size would we do that?
Yeah, so you need to explain. Yeah, that's you got the right thing. Just didn't go on to explain. So increase the number of samples per second, and therefore the amount of data. Right, the second point. There is only 2 things you can really say for definite. You will have a more accurate recording of the sound. You'll capture higher frequency ranges. So it's the high frequency changes. Remember when we did the little waveform, if you sample too little, you miss out the changes. And the high frequency changes are what you will not then be able to recover.
High frequency changes.
Yeah. So it would be better, theoretically, it would be better sound quality. Obviously, there's a law of diminishing returns with all these things. So a few people did say better sound quality, but you need to explain why. Okay. Right, okay, moving down to this compression question. So again, lossy compression. And it's the same reasons. Smaller file size. And he's going to email this. So that makes a big... So smaller file size, so it would be quicker to send. Not easier. People keep saying easier. Never use that word. So quicker to send, or it maybe there's a size limit. on emails. Some email systems do have a size limit. Quicker to send, and there may be a size limit for attachments. I think most people, if they've got music, they would upload it to a music site and share them a link, wouldn't they, these days? I think it's the most sensible way of doing it.
So yeah, most things that are sent out, we use links like that.
Yeah. You what? No idea. Right, okay, carrying on. So again, smaller size. It's going to take up less space. So locally on their computer, but also on the people that send it in the email box. Okay, and a further one. It may be good enough for them to just get an idea of the song, the tune, whatever it is produced.
Okay. So at the end of the day, we don't use and then we say
for an appraisal of some description. Right, okay, this one was this was quite hard to answer clearly. A few people gave it a good go, but got a little bit muddled. You've just got to take it in parts. Right, so they've said you can have JPEG, MP3s, MPEGs and PDFs. A video clip is compressed using lossy. Explain why that's suitable for a video clip, but not suitable for a text document. So they're saying what is lossy compression? And what's its drawback? So, lossy removes video content without too many visible effects. But it is not, you cannot reconstruct the original file. Because we threw stuff away. But it doesn't matter. With a document, you must be able to reconstruct the original file. So any document must be completely restructured. Exactly. So lossless is not suitable as it removes content. It's basically a comparison question. So you tackle it as a comparison question. You talk about one side and then you talk about the opposites. Okay. Okay, another couple of questions to go. Another compression question. Right, so we've got Layla, she's an artist, she's doing images and videos for a website. Why is she compressing them? If you've answered that question previously, you won't get this level of repetition in a test, but you might get some questions that step on each other's toes. But obviously this is a repeat of the previous question, so it's Smaller file size. So it's quicker to upload, download. So that's 2 separate points. But it's also less space to store. On computer and servers. Okay, so just repeat the previous question really. Right, okay, part 2's not. Right, she wants to reduce by the largest amount possible. Well, we've said there are only 2 broad strands, lossless and lossy. Lossy, because content's removed, always gives you better compression ratios. So the answer is going to be lossy. The reason for that is content is removed, so the file will get smaller before it's compressed. And we can control the quality, so we can make it so it's good enough to view on a website. So quality versus size. Okay. Right. Last question on this page. Wow. Hardly anybody got this right, which was quite disappointing. Right. The smallest unit is a bit. The next largest in this list is a nibble, which is 4 bits.
That's the one that's half a byte.
Half a byte. Then we've got byte, which is 8 bits. Right, and then we've got to scan this carefully because they missed a few out. They didn't have kilobyte there, did they? So the next biggest is megabyte, which is 1,000,000 bytes. Then we've got gigabyte, which is 1,000 megabytes.
So did you make this test?
No.
They knew what they were doing.
Oh yeah.
Nibble.
PB is petabyte. That is 1,000,000 gigabytes. Because they've missed terabyte out. Okay. So you got it. They could ask that loads of different ways. You've got to be careful. Remember, everything starts at bit. A few people started with nibble, which was a bit of a doer. Right, nice question, this next one. Most people give it a good go. The key for me, Eva, is this. You threw marks away. Your working was in your head. You could have got extra marks. Right, show your working. Right, each video is 100 meg. We've got a gigabyte. So we know that 1 gigabyte is 1,000 megabytes. So we just got to say, what is 1,000 divided by 100? Well, the answer is 10 videos would fit. Got to show you working. Right, the next question. Some people had a go at this. Nobody got, I think one person got 6. But those people that had a go at this, in general, got at least 1 mark. The mark scheme was very generous. Right. Look at the bullet points. That's what you've got to do. Ask the user to input a size in megabytes. So, I'm going to have a variable called size because I'm going to do some input and I want to store it. I'm going to put equals. And I'm just going to put input size in megabytes, please. If I do that, guess how many marks that was worth? One line. 2. Because you got a mark for telling them what size you wanted and a mark for doing the input. 2 marks. I'm then going to skip the hard bit and I'm going to do the final bit. which was a user-friendly output. So I'm going to put print file is, and it doesn't have to be mega fancy, plus my answer plus MB. Guess how many marks that was? 2. That is 2 marks. Nice output with the answer. So the only other thing is, once I've got this, well, that should have been bytes actually. I've got to convert bytes from megabytes. So remember, there is 1,000 kilobytes in a megabyte. That means there must be 1,000,000 bytes in a megabyte. So you can just do this. So you can say whatever the megabytes was, times it by 1,000. That will give me kilobytes, and then just times it by 1,000 again. That gives me how many bytes in a megabyte? That's why it's important to do that. Stick to thousands and don't try and do 1,024. So that was a mark for that, a mark for that. They gave you a mark for having a go at doing 1,000, and then a mark for getting the actual one.
I only got one. I only did one of the 1,000.
Yeah, so you got a mark though. So you got 5. So quite a few people who had a good stab at it got 5 on that. So that's good. But there was quite a few people who didn't get the calculation, but they got 4 marks. So that was good. Always right. The programming questions. Always look for inputs and outputs. You will get easy marks.
I missed it. You don't do that.
Right, next calculation. Pretty much like the video one. So we've got images that are all a megabyte, which is weird. And we've got 3 gig. So 3 gig is 3,000 megabytes. Now some people got that far and then cocked the answer up, but they got a mark for doing that. So actually it's 3,000 divided by 1, which gives me 3,000. Right, now this one, hardly anybody got this. Type of storage device. There are 3 types: optical, magnetic, solid state. You had to either write magnetic or you had to write solid state and then give the reasons for that one. But it said internal. A few people put USB. That's not internal, that's an external storage device. Right, so if you're going to put magnetic, so I'll split this in 2. The magnetic is to do with cost per megabyte. It's cheap. Cheap per gig. And we usually say gigabyte. Cheap per gigabyte. Fast enough. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Fast enough. But the most important thing about magnetic is durable. So it's long lasting. Solid state, you're talking about fast read and fast write as the main reasons. It's not as cheap as magnetic by a long way. 10 times more expensive generally. Okay. They are very robust though. They can take knocks. If you bang your desk or whatever, they're not going to get damaged. A hard disk could. And that's really the reasons. Right, and then the last question, which annoyingly does go over the page, but luckily I can do that. Right. So it's... Oops, it's going all funny in my monitor. Sample rate is the number of times the amplitude is recorded per second. True or false? True. The smaller the bit depth, the smaller the range of sounds. Yes. The more bits you use, the more accurate each sample is. That's what you're asking there. Right. The larger the sample rate, the larger the bit depth. They're two separate things. Sample rate is how often, bit depth is how well you can record. So that's not true. The frequency and pitch of the sound are measured. No, the amplitude is measured. We infer the frequency through processing.
That's the only one.
Sound is stored using pixels. I hope no one ticked that one. Right, so that's false. Okay. And whenever you get one of those... Did he put pixels? Oh. Right. Whenever you get one of those, you don't get 5 marks. They do it in batches. So if you got one right, you got a mark. If you got up to 3 or 4, you got 2 marks. If you got all of them, you got 3. Okay, right. I'll stop the recording there.